Battlefront are moving from resin and metal aircraft kits to plastic. Today this video is going to look at the Revell BAE Harrier GR.7 kit. This plastic is the basis for Battlefront's new Harrier Close Support Flight plastic box set for Team Yankee. This is the Revell BAE Harrier GR.7 plastic kit in 1/144th scale. Why am I looking at this? Well, because this is the same plastic as you'll find in Battlefront's new Harrier Close Support Flight. Battlefront is transitioning over to plastics for their aircraft. They're doing this by reboxing existing kits from manufacturers like Academy and Revell. I came across this Revell kit in my local hobby store and wanted to have a look. I'll look at what you get and mention the extra parts you get in the Battlefront kit. The Revell kit comes on 2 sprues of light grey plastic and a transparent cockpit. The Battlefront version has the same cockpit but moulded in standard styrene. The wargaming convention is to have opaque rather than transparent canopies on aircraft and helicopters. The first sprue has the fuselage, horizontal tailplane parts, air intake and engine nozzle parts. It also has the landing gear parts, which we won't be using. You can see there are some tiny parts here. This is obviously designed as a scale model kit and not a wargaming piece. The second sprue has the gun pods, sidewinder air-to-air missiles, external fuel tank, nose, pylons and wings. Having the wings as a single part will avoid join lines down the spine of the assembled kit. The Revell GR.7 kit is missing the AV-8B portion of the sprue with a different nose and gun pods. You will get both in the Battlefront kit, so make sure you choose the correct nose for the aircraft you want to build. While there are a lot of pylons here, the only armament included is air-to-air. You get 2 AIM-9 Sidewinder missiles. The Battlefront kit includes 4 resin cluster bombs. These appear to be American CBU-100 Rockeyes rather than the British BL-755s. The Revell decals feature a lot of stencils and very modern small RAF roundels. In contrast, the Battlefront kit comes with larger Cold War era roundels and tail flashes, and no stencils at all. More than enough markings for a wargaming kit. So that's the parts, both for the Revell kit and the additions and options for the Battlefront boxing. You can see the kit has a lot more parts than is usual for a wargaming kit. This is not going to be a 5-minute build. Using the GR.7 in Team Yankee does give us a bit of a problem with the timeline. This version of the Harrier became operational almost a decade later than the original 1985 Team Yankee period. However, this is a commercial necessity as the GR.7 was the version available from Revell in plastic. It's a bit anachronistic, but I'm willing to go along with it to get a plastic aircraft for the gaming table. So overall, the positives of plastic are good detail and less warpage and casting issues than resin and metal kits. The downside is a much more complex build and a slightly out-of-period version of the aircraft. Let's look at some history. Developed in the 1960s, the Harrier was a vertical takeoff and landing aircraft design. Most modern jet aircraft require long hardened runways, but VTOL enabled the Harrier to operate from improvised landing strips in forest clearings or car parks. An important consideration given airbases and runways were prime wartime targets. However, Harrier was a compromise. VTOL meant payloads were a bit limited due to weight and lift restrictions, and most Harriers actually performed a rolling short takeoff instead. VTOL aircraft are also significantly harder to fly, requiring superior pilots, training and more losses to malfunctions and accidents. Despite this, Harrier proved effective, both in ground attack with the Royal Air Force GR.1 and GR.3 versions, and in air-to-air point defence with the Fleet Air Arm. The United States Marine Corps adopted the Harrier as the AV-8A, and the aircraft was exported to India, Italy, Spain and Thailand. The GR.5 and GR.7 were the British versions of the Harrier II program, a joint US and British project to develop and improve the original Harrier design. The Harrier II mounted a larger wing with leading edge extensions as well as additional stores hardpoints under the wing. The larger cockpit was also raised, giving pilots better visibility. The US version was designated the AV-8B. The GR.5 entered British service in 1987, with the GR.7s being deployed in the mid-90s. Let's look at using the Harrier on the table in Team Yankee. Harrier is a strike aircraft with the jump jet special rule. This means Harrier will arrive on table on a 3+ roll, more likely than other aircraft types. Courage and morale are 4+, and skill is a 3+. A good skill rating is useful for ranging in for a salvo attack. Harriers are hit on a 4+, with a 5+ aircraft save. Harriers attack close in at low level and are pretty vulnerable to ground fire. Harrier can make either a gun attack with 30mm cannon or a cluster bomb salvo attack. The 30mm Aiden cannon has an 8-inch or 20cm range, a rate of fire of 3, an anti-tank of 7 with a 5+ firepower. The anti-helicopter rule means they can engage enemy helicopters. But their signature attack is the cluster bomb salvo. This is an artillery-style attack targeting any units caught under a salvo-sized artillery template. Each unit caught under the template needs to roll a save. Anti-tank is 8 with a 3+ firepower. The cluster bomb salvo uses the salvo bombardment rules found on page 51 through 54 in the World War III Team Yankee rulebook. British forces can take a Harrier close support flight of 2 or 4 aircraft for 5 and 10 points respectively. So that's the new Harrier close support flight from Team Yankee. After having to bend and straighten my resonant metal Harriers in hot water, plastic is a welcome change. However, the added complexity of the plastic kits may not sit well with wargamers who aren't plastic modelers. It will take substantially more work to get them on the table. The out-of-period Harrier might concern some people, but it is a consequence of using existing kit molds from other manufacturers. Despite these issues, I welcome the switch to plastics. I'll build this one up and let you know how I get on.